There's a security alarm right there, I see. Let's go.
This is where you will begin and end your time here with Convocation
All
and
right.
Commencement, pretty much graduation for our senior students here. We do have a lot of ASUR student events held here, including Fall and Spring Fest, where students handpick musical artists, including in the past Black Eyed Peas and AJR. Although I haven't participated in any of these events yet, because my first year was online, they gave soft
What is that tree right there?
Here, I like to point out the book that's on the building, and this is because it used to be our old library. Whatever else I'm studying, just so I can combine film and business together. And so as a Johnston student, you do need to be accepted to both the university and their program. And also as a first year student, you will be placed into your community, you'll be then placed into a residence hall for living. We do have the residence life and housing where they require you to fill out kind of just a little information about yourself, your living habits. composition, performance, education, as well as master's degrees in music. Sounds like they're having. Across the way, this big green patch is our quad. So I showed y'all our Redlands R earlier. This is about the same size as our quad here, so a lot bigger than you would expect. Typically when students aren't in class, when it's not a Tuesday, and when they're either not sleeping in or getting breakfast, we do have students kind of hanging out over here, working on homework, doing a quick picnic, grabbing a quick about a private Uber ride on all the go-karts that y'all been seeing around campus to either classes, the food areas here, and also practice. And if you have an academic accommodation like me, the people there will send
rep here at Redlands. I'm also a class of 2021 graduate, so I came back here to work for the admissions office. I'm originally from a really small town in Alaska, so I came from pretty far away to go to Redlands. I really fell in love with the campus, with this part of Southern California, so we talk all about what kind of drew me in and just general stuff about the college, the campus, and kind of the admissions process as a whole. So I like to start out with a little map. I'm sure you're all kind of generally familiar with where we are here in the Inland Empire, about an hour west of where you all are from. But the way that we really like to pose Redlands and our campus and town location is that it's just very centrally located in Southern California. It's about an hour from Big Bear, Joshua Tree, and maybe a little more than an hour from Palm Springs, an hour from the beach, maybe an hour to 5 hours with traffic from LA. Of course, that varies, but in any case, you really have the best of all worlds when it comes to Southern California. Just when you think about all the things this region has to offer, you have the whole of Los Angeles and Hollywood, and you have the coastline and the desert, all of those things, we're just smack dab in the middle of it. So you don't have to particularly choose to be bogged down in the city where it's going to take you an hour to drive a mile. You're not way out in the desert or anything like that. You have the best of all the places and access to the opportunities that are kind of abound there. So we have a really vast alumni network, meaning all the people who have graduated from the school in years past. When you are a student here, and eventually when you're an alumni, graduated from the University of Redlands, that alumni connection is really invaluable. And this is going to be the case no matter where you go. So whether you go here or any other school on the planet, the people that have graduated from your school prior to you are going to be a huge resource for you. Here at Redlands, we have alumni in every different industry, many different companies, but it's really focused on Southern California. Our kind of California alumni network is vast, so if you're interested in staying in California long term, staying in the region, there are tons of employers and people who might be able to give you internships, things like that, you're going to benefit with because you have that Redlands connection. And I think because of Redlands' kind of smaller reputation, it's not as well known, it's a smaller school, that connection is all the more valuable because when you run into a Redlands alum, you kind of make that connection, you say tamale, as you might have learned about on the tour. It's a really much more intimate connection than if you were going to a larger school. So that is just one thing to think about. So on the topic of drive times, getting around the region, we are a very short distance from kind of the downtown area of Redlands. There's all the amenities of hotels, restaurants, businesses, all that sort of thing. Short bike ride. If you want to bring a car, you can do so for all 4 years. So freshmen are allowed to bring a car. Parking on campus is free. For context, a lot of schools will charge you a lot of money to park on campus. So totally free all 4 years here. That's one important thing to think about. And we're also just opening up a passenger rail that has a train station on the south end of campus. So if you don't bring a car, you can still get all around the region using the train, or you can just take it into downtown. You can go to Trader Joe's, whatever the case may be. They're making it really easy to get around, and the region is just being more and more interconnected than ever. So a bit of an overview about the school itself. We have about 2,500 undergrads here, so we're a very, very small school. It's not so small that you're going to know everybody. You're still going to be meeting new people in each new class each semester. It's not so small that everyone's kind of going to know you and sort of be involved in your personal life, but it is very much a place where you can feel the community. You're going to know people all around. You're going to know some of the people that you walk by in your walk in the morning to class. It's a very kind of congenial environment. People are very open, extroverted, and outgoing, and willing to kind of make those connections wherever they find them. We are a residentially focused community, which means that students are required to live on campus for all 4 years. So part of that is that you are guaranteed to live on campus, so you're never going to get kicked out of housing on campus, having to find a landlord or somewhere to live off campus, kind of in the private sector. You're not going to have to do that. You're always going to be guaranteed housing, and that's not just going to be dorms. It can also be apartments. We have 2 different apartment complexes that quite a large number of our sophomores, juniors, seniors live in, so you can have your own kitchen, things like that. So it's not always going to be a dorm, sharing a bedroom with people. There's really a wide variety of ways to live. So student life, of course, is a really big college is that students are given a lot of support, especially that financial support, the most important piece, to really make their mark on campus, make a club, host events, anything like that. As far as pre-existing clubs, they really run the gamut of academic interest clubs, cultural or religious affiliation clubs, local action clubs, clubs based around a specific activity or interest. It's really about anything you can think of. And of course, like I said, if there's something you want that you don't have, anybody can make a club anytime, all 4 years. Community service is another really big part of campus, as each student is required to complete a 30-hour minimum community service project. So that can be anything you want it to be. The really only requirements is that you log your hours, you get them signed off on by a supervisor, and you write a little paper and present it to our community service learning office. So that community service learning office is designed to help you get a community service project that is going to benefit you, something that is going to bring you job skills, connections, experience outside of the classroom that isn't. There are opportunities elsewhere on campus, like tutoring local students, things like that. You can work in the town of Redlands. There's plenty of nonprofits that you can volunteer with, or you can do your own project back home over the summer or remotely. Really, it's up to you, but it's meant to benefit you in any case. So Greek life is a presence on our campus as well. It's not as big a piece of campus as maybe a larger school might have. About a quarter of our students take part in Greek life. So all of those Greek life fraternities and sororities, those are all local to Redlands. They are not found on any other campus. So they all have sort of a distinct Redlands flavor. They all have, they're not beholden to any larger national structure. So I think it sort of removes a lot of the poison from the well of Greek life, as it were. It really is less of a toxic presence on this campus than it is others. It's really more based on community service and kind of social engagement. It's not a barrier to fitting in socially, and it's certainly not, off to the side doing their own thing. It's very much intermingled throughout the campus. It is a thing that's there for anybody, but if you don't want to do it, you can completely ignore it, and it's not going to pressure you to join or anything like that. So I think there's a really appropriate balance socially when it comes to the Greek life element of our campus. So sports-wise, we have about any team that you would be competing on. In high school, we are at the Division III level, so we compete with similarly sized private institutions generally, Chapman, Occidental, Laverne's, name a few. And really the great thing about Division III is that it's a way to continue your athletic pursuits from high school without having to commit so much that your academics or your other parts of your life are suffering. The Division III athletics feel is really about balancing that student-athlete experience, so you're never going to be more of an athlete than you are a student. Our athletes generally perform very well. I believe the average GPA among student athletes is about 3.5. So you really have the ability to balance your life, and you can still kind of bring over that fun athletic side from high school, practices, workouts, that kind of camaraderie of being a team, but it's not going to dominate your life. So again, really good happy medium there. Our sports teams do recruit. You're able to get in touch with the coaches. If you're interested in playing, you can share statistics, footage, anything like that. So if you're interested in playing, I'd recommend going to goredlands.com, finding the coach that's relevant to you, and reaching out, kind of getting the ball rolling about that. Any questions in the back there? Do you have questions? Okay. So moving on, we also have intramural club sports. So those are just sports that are played within the student body. You're not leaving campus or traveling for it. So it's really more like a club in that way. There's not tryouts or recruitment or anything like that. It's much lower stakes. But people still really show out for intramural sports. It's so popular that there's always something going on as far as intramural sports. There's always one sport or another going on. Sometimes it's football, basketball, beach volleyball, soccer. There's always something for everyone. It's really intended for every student to partake in if they so desire. Teams are run out of residence halls, or you can make your own. So a lot of people take part in intramurals. It's a really big kind of sticking point as far as the weekends and the weeknights, keeping people on campus and engaged. We also have outdoor programs, which is a really cool organization that is led by students. It's photographed right there with those rock climbers. They lead outdoor trips all around the area. They will drive you out there. They have their own vans. They'll rent gear to you. So they do so many different things like fishing, hiking, backpacking, camping, rock climbing, I think I said fishing. I'm just repeating myself now. But in any case, they do plenty of different outdoor activities. We are surrounded by so many different places to recreate. You can also become a trip leader in outdoor programs, and that opens up a pathway to get different outdoor first aid certifications, like a wilderness first responder cert, which you can do for free through outdoor programs. Free versus $1,000 doing it outside of outdoor programs. So if you're interested in an outdoor career, working outside, being a park guide, something like that, that is a really good way to go. It can get you a lot of that outside of the classroom experience. So moving on to housing, like I said, anyone living outside of a 30-mile radius of the school is required to live on campus for all 4 years. That is done a number of different ways, of course. There are plenty of different halls. They all kind of have their own identity. Some of them have different styles of rooms. Some of them you can live alone. Some of them need your own bathroom. Some of them are rumored to be haunted, that sort of thing. It really is quite diverse in terms of what living experience you want to have. So you're able to pick your own dorm any given year, but when you're coming into the school, the default process for choosing your dorm is based on choosing your first year seminar. So every other class that you pick, you're going to pick once you're here on campus. You're going to register for classes during your orientation week, but during the summer, when you have been admitted to the school, you pay your deposit, you kind of have your spot in class. In that summer, you're going to pick your first year seminar. So that is kind of a fun, open-ended class that is meant to be, of course it is academic, you take exams, there's rigor, but essentially it's meant to introduce you to the social, the academic, and sort of the just general college life side of things. So that first year seminar, for instance, mine that I picked many, many years ago as a freshman was in the sociology department, and it was called Punk Rock Do It Yourself. Each week we would listen to albums, write reviews of them, meet some of the people who made those albums decades ago, really just kind of engaging with that history, and that carried with it the theme of social justice. So each first year seminar has its own theme. That theme is going to determine where you live your freshman year. So the advantage of that is that you're living with people who have this class in common with you, people who have similar classes, people who have essentially this ethos that they're going to be applying to their major whenever they choose it. So it's not determining your major, you're not just living with, your fellow physics majors or anything like that. It's people who have something in common that they chose that is kind of based on their first year seminar. So you're the class of like-minded individuals that you're living with. You can study with them very easily at night in your dorm. You have people to walk back from class with, get food with after class. It really leads to a very open social environment, a place where everyone is kind of participating and it sees the social side and the academic side really intertwined. So it gives a really fantastic jumping off point to both of those sides of college. Beyond that, they also kind of teach you how to make it in college, how to deal with stress, how to seek support services and use those whenever you need them. So some of those support services that you're going to be introduced to through the first year seminar are listed here. The first is our academic success office. Essentially what they do is provide accommodations for any student's learning needs. It is a no questions asked space where you can go in and get whatever accommodation you need to get you up to speed, whether it is moving a class from the third floor to the first, if you maybe have a mobility challenge, you sprain your ankle, something like that. You can have your own room to take tests in, you can have someone to take notes for you. There are a really pretty much infinite variety of accommodations you can receive just based on whatever need you have. Tutoring is also allotted to students. I believe you get 4 hours a week, and that is from a tutor who's paid by the school. If it's going to be a student in the major that corresponds to the class you need tutoring in, you're always going to have that option. We have a whole online system to reserve a tutor, so you don't have to reach out specifically to them. You just are kind of given one, and when you put in your request on the online service, we have counseling, which is essentially just talk therapy that you can go in and out of at your leisure. And then a health center, which is pretty bog standard on college campuses. They do referrals, tests, they have a nurse there, that sort of thing. So the common theme with all of these is that they're at no extra cost to you. They are very available for students at any point, and there's no wait list for any of those services. So when I was a student here, there was a bit of a controversy about the counseling center having a wait list, people having to wait a really inordinate amount of time to get into therapy. was feeling crummy because of that. But now there's no wait list, so if you have mental health struggles, anything like that, these services really exist to kind of get you up to speed, stay as mentally, physically well as you are able to, and just focus on having fun, social life, academics, all that stuff. So academics specifically is a focus at any college, certainly here. The vibe of academics is small classes. So we have that really good 13-to-1 student faculty ratio, which means that professors are really available to you. They're very much open to popping into their office, getting help. You probably saw over here, there are study cubbies oriented around professors' offices, so they'll be right there while you're studying, able to answer questions, chit chat, whatever the case may be. Classes, like I said, are really small. Their average class size of 18, so that's smaller than most high schools. But the kind of cherry on top of the small class sizes is that they get smaller as you go on in school. So when you're in upper division courses, your classes are just going to get smaller and smaller. So this here has a capacity of about 40 people, and it is a pretty large classroom for Redlands. You would rarely see this filled up for a normal class session. When you are a junior or a senior, you could have classes in the single digits of students. So I was a political science and philosophy major. By senior year, I was having classes with about 4 people and a professor. Obviously, with philosophy majors, the jokes kind of write themselves there, but that is a feature of any other major as well, even really popular majors, business, psychology, you name it. Their class sizes, especially in the upper division, those kind of junior, senior level courses, are going to be really small, which leads to an environment of comfort, of kind of people feel safe to express difficulties, differences, disagreements, focus on specific things. The professor has that time for you. You're going to know everybody. You're going to have that relationship built with the professor and your fellow students from day one. So jumping off from that, it's just a really comfortable environment to learn in and really, really discussion-based. So these are all our programs within the College of Arts and Sciences. And what I really like to share here is that none of these programs are impacted. So at a larger college, you might encounter a program that you want to major in, you want to get a combination of majors or minors, whatever the case may be, but one or all of those might be impacted, meaning that they've taken on essentially more students than they can handle, they are not able to accommodate you, you might have to essentially apply to get into a major even when you're already at that school. Because of that, you could end up being in college for years beyond what you intend to be there for. So, of course, college, undergrad specifically, is meant to last 4 years, not much more. But at a larger school, a lot of people end up staying for 5, 6, even 7 in a worst case scenario. So, assuming that the average college graduate makes about $50,000 a year, each year that you're still in college after that anticipated 4 years, you're missing out on that much money, essentially. So 3 years extra in college, that is $150,000. That is really tremendous amount of money to lose out on as you're starting your professional life. All that being said, that doesn't happen at Redlands. No one is having to apply to get into a major they want. No one is getting denied for majors they want. It's really oriented around you getting in and out in 4 years, having the services you need to do that. So you're not required to declare your major until the end of your sophomore year. So if you're sitting here at any grade level and you just have no idea what career you're interested in, what you want to do in college, that's totally okay. You could have years and years before you even need to figure that out. So the first 2 years, certainly any day from the first day of your freshman year to the last day of your sophomore year, you can march into any office and declare in that major, sign the paperwork, commit to that, but you certainly don't have to for the first 2 years. You have that time to explore all around, test out different majors, check out your interests, and see if they kind of carried over from high school, maybe find anticipated interests. It's all about giving you the time to figure out exactly what you want to do so you're going to be committed once you get there. And in those first 2 years, you'll have taken care of all your general ed requirements. So by the last 2 years, you maybe have 1 or 2 general ed requirements floating around. But for the most part, you can only take courses that are in your major or majors and just really focus on that part of your education. Part of that is that you're always going to have an academic advisor here. So you're always going to have a professor who's going to be assigned as your advisor. It's going to start out being your first year seminar professor. And they'll be kind of your point person for registering for classes, for thinking about career prospects, maybe talking to professors in majors you're interested in. They are your person for figuring out every side of the college experience. Part of that is that you're going to be required to meet with them each semester right before you register for classes. So the benefit of that is that you're never going to be in classes that aren't benefiting you. They're not going to be giving you requirements checked off, anything like that. So with the advisor, you're always going to be on track. You're not going to be wasting time. Once you declare your major and whatever major you're choosing, you're going to choose a professor within that major to be your advisor, and they'll kind of get you across the finish line and help you to start thinking about the very ominous time after college, whether that be a career or grad school or whatever. We do have 2 additional programs that are kind of schools within the school that do require applications before you come to school to get into. They're not majors per se, but they open up the door to a lot of different options. So the first is our Johnston Center. That is a create your own major program. So if you are interested in that, you'll apply to Johnston through the Common App, just kind of an additional couple of questions on top of your general Redlands application. And what they do is you come in, you're undecided, just as if you were in any other part of the school, but you're going to create your own program of study sometime in those first 2 years. So you'll have faculty consent and approval that'll help you out with that, but essentially you choose a slew of courses that are offered at this school. You're not going to be creating your own courses or anything like that, and you just kind of mix them together and create an emphasis instead of a major. So it can be anything you want. It's often meant to be kind of merging 2 disciplines. It's very interdisciplinary, kind of syncretic in that way. Essentially, a lot of students come in with a specific career goal. Music therapy is a really good example where a student will do kind of half of a music major and half of a psychology major, but it really can be anything. You could certainly mix up 3, 4 different majors, classes from all those disciplines. So if you have a really unique, kind of pointed idea of what you want to do, Johnston is a good place to go for that. Certainly a lot of students will look at Johnston and decide they'd rather do a double major. That was my choice, but in some cases it is just perfect for a certain student's learning kind of style. The School of Music is also a really big presence on our campus. It's a classical conservatory style music education. They offer degrees in music ed if you want to be a music teacher, composition, performance for voice and instruments. All of those things, you audition before you come to school here, so you're kind of set on that track all 4 years. And if you are wanting to play music, you can of course minor as well if you don't want to make that full major commitment. And you can also audition into their bands and choirs and orchestras. So you have that option if you're a musician and you want to continue that side of your life in college without making the full commitment. So Study Away is kind of the center of our outside of the classroom experiential learning kind of idea here. That's something you'll find at many, many different schools, but I really like the way Redlands does it. So essentially, study abroad is your choice to do it as you please. You can do it or not, and you can go wherever you like. So there are 2 different ways that it's often done. The first is travel.